Chapter 1: A New Home. Sarah Thompson stood on the edge of the rocky cliff, gazing out at the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. The salty sea breeze tousled her dark hair as she took in the view. Below, waves crashed against the rocks, sending up sprays of white foam. In the distance, the old lighthouse stood tall and proud, its red and white stripes a stark contrast against the blue sky. Sarah and her family had recently moved to the small coastal town of Seabrook, where her father had taken a job as the new lighthouse keeper. For Sarah, it was a chance to start fresh after the recent loss of her mother. She hoped the change of scenery would help her heal and find some sense of normalcy. The lighthouse was a fascinating place, full of history and secrets. Built in the early 1800s, it had guided countless ships safely to shore. Now, it was Sarah's new home, and she couldn't wait to explore every inch of it. The town of Seabrook was quaint and charming, with friendly locals and a close-knit community. Despite her initial apprehensions, Sarah found herself quickly settling into her new life. Chapter 2: The Mysterious Signal. One evening, as Sarah was helping her father in the lighthouse, she noticed something strange. The lighthouse's beacon, which was supposed to rotate smoothly, seemed to be flickering intermittently. Her father, a seasoned lighthouse keeper, was puzzled. They inspected the machinery but found nothing wrong. The flickering continued for several nights, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. One night, she decided to stay up late and observe the lighthouse from her bedroom window. As she watched, she noticed a faint light signal coming from a nearby cliff. It was almost as if someone was trying to communicate using Morse code. Curiosity piqued, Sarah grabbed a notebook and began jotting down the pattern of the flashes. She spent the next few days deciphering the code, using an old Morse code guide she found in the lighthouse's library. To her astonishment, the message spelled out, "Help me." Chapter 3: The Search Begins. Sarah's mind raced with questions. Who was sending the signal? And why? She knew she couldn't ignore the plea for help, but she also realized she couldn't investigate alone. She confided in her new friend, Jake, a local boy who shared her love for adventure and mystery. Jake was immediately intrigued by Sarah's discovery. Together, they decided to explore the area near the cliff where the signal had originated. They packed a small bag with supplies and set off early one Saturday morning. The path to the cliff was steep and treacherous, but Sarah and Jake were determined to uncover the truth. As they approached the cliff, they noticed a small, dilapidated cabin hidden among the trees. The cabin looked abandoned, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been there recently. They cautiously approached the cabin, and Jake pushed open the creaky door. Inside, they found a small, cluttered room filled with old newspapers, maps, and nautical charts. On a dusty table, they discovered a lantern with a Morse code guide next to it. Sarah's heart raced as she realized they were in the right place. They searched the cabin for any clues about the person who had sent the signal. Chapter 4: The Secret Room. While rummaging through a stack of old books, Sarah noticed a loose floorboard near the corner of the cabin. She and Jake pried it open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, they found a diary, its pages filled with handwritten notes and sketches. The diary belonged to a man named Captain Elias Monroe, a former lighthouse keeper who had mysteriously disappeared years ago. According to the diary, Captain Monroe had discovered a hidden treasure map that led to a stash of valuable artifacts buried somewhere near the lighthouse. He had been close to finding the treasure when he suddenly vanished. Sarah and Jake were stunned. Could Captain Monroe still be alive? And if so, was he the one sending the signal? They decided to follow the clues in the diary, hoping to find answers. The first clue led them to a hidden cave along the coastline, accessible only during low tide. Chapter 5: The Hidden Cave. Sarah and Jake waited for the tide to recede before making their way to the cave. The entrance was narrow and dark, but they squeezed through, armed with flashlights. Inside, they found a series of tunnels and chambers, each filled with ancient markings and carvings. As they ventured deeper into the cave, they stumbled upon a chamber with a large, weathered chest. The chest was locked, but the diary contained a sketch of a key. Sarah remembered seeing a similar key in one of the old books back at the lighthouse. They carefully noted the location of the chest and made their way back to the lighthouse. Back at the lighthouse, they searched through the old books until they found the key. With the key in hand, they returned to the cave and unlocked the chest. Inside, they found a collection of artifacts, including old coins, jewelry, and a map. The map appeared to be a detailed layout of the cave system, with markings indicating the location of the treasure. Sarah and Jake were thrilled by their discovery, but they knew they had to be cautious. They decided to explore the cave further the next day, hoping to uncover the treasure and find out what happened to Captain Monroe. Chapter 6: The Rescue. The following morning, Sarah and Jake returned to the cave, following the map's directions. As they navigated the tunnels, they heard faint tapping sounds, like someone was trying to get their attention. They followed the sound to a small chamber, where they found an old man trapped behind a collapsed wall of rocks. The man was weak and disoriented, but he managed to identify himself as Captain Elias Monroe. He had been trapped in the cave for years, surviving on the meager supplies he had with him. He had been sending the Morse code signals, hoping someone would find him. Sarah and Jake worked quickly to free Captain Monroe from the rubble. They carefully cleared away the rocks and helped him out of the cave. Back at the lighthouse, they tended to his injuries and gave him food and water. Captain Monroe was grateful and shared his story with them. He had been searching for the treasure when the cave collapsed, trapping him inside. Over the years, he had tried to signal for help using the lantern and Morse code, but it wasn't until Sarah discovered the signal that his rescue became possible. Chapter 7: The Treasure. With Captain Monroe safe, Sarah and Jake decided to continue their search for the treasure. With the captain's guidance, they followed the map to a hidden chamber deep within the cave. There, they found a second chest, even larger and more ornate than the first. Inside, they discovered a trove of priceless artifacts, including gold coins, jewels, and historical documents. The treasure had been hidden by pirates centuries ago and had remained undiscovered until now. Captain Monroe was overjoyed to see his life's work finally come to fruition. The news of their discovery spread quickly through Seabrook. The town celebrated Sarah and Jake's bravery and ingenuity, and the treasure was carefully cataloged and displayed in the local museum. Captain Monroe was hailed as a hero, and his story became a legend in the town's history. Chapter 8: A Bright Future. The experience had changed Sarah's life in ways she couldn't have imagined. She had found a new home, made lasting friendships, and uncovered a piece of history that would be remembered for generations. The lighthouse, once a symbol of her loss, had become a beacon of hope and adventure. Sarah and Jake continued to explore and uncover the secrets of Seabrook, their bond growing stronger with each new discovery. Captain Monroe, now a cherished member of the community, shared his knowledge and stories with anyone who would listen. As the years went by, Sarah realized that the lighthouse had given her more than just a place to live, it had given her a purpose. She decided to follow in her father's footsteps, training to become a lighthouse keeper and historian. She dedicated her life to preserving the history of Seabrook and sharing its stories with the world. The mystery at the old lighthouse had brought Sarah a sense of belonging and a deeper appreciation for the past. She knew that no matter where life took her, the lighthouse would always be her guiding light, leading her to new adventures and discoveries.